Hey everyone, welcome back to Star Trek Avalon. Normally we do an in-character recap of the previous episode. However, last episode was a mere 17 minutes long before a lightning strike fried the port plasma conduit in my computer and we were taken out of service. So we are going to pick up literally the moment the stream cut off, which I guess we can do a quick summary for those of you just joining us. Thank you guys for the raid. We, the bridge crew of the Avalon is currently exploring a strange 10-kilometer in diameter sphere floating through space on solar cells. I guess they are sails. Yeah, wow, nice. Well, I quit. Beam me out of here. And we found a forest inside this basically geodesic dome, and the forest was rotten and like withering on the outskirts of the forest. And towards the center of the dome, we found a shield where these strange tree-like humanoid creatures were fending off these bugs that seemed to be phasing in and out of existence. And as they crossed the shield, they phased into being corporeal. The crew had just triangulated our phasers to trap one, and the crew of the Avalon, I believe, is in the middle of trying to beam them aboard the ship to one of the science labs, right?
Correct. Into containment.
All right, so you want to just pick up right there?
Yeah.
All right, I'll kick it off. Logan to Avalon, confirm that you've got the specimen.
We're trying to bring it in, sir. Just a second, and it's the same Denobian and transporter chief that beamed you down. And if you could see on board the ship right now, he's struggling to keep the confinement beam narrow enough to bring these creatures on board. You'd see them for a second kind of partially materialize and then kind of fade out for a second. And it's this back and forth for a minute. And then there's kind of the intensity of the signal amplifies, and you see kind of in a small containment area that was set up in one of the modular labs, I think on deck 3. There are 4 of these creatures that you saw before, and they're not invisible. You can see them clear as day. Well, those of them in the lab can see them. Sir, we've got them.
Excellent. Get the lab running. We need to know what these things are as fast as possible.
All right. We'll begin studying them. Do you have any specific instructions for what you'd like us to do?
Well, here's what we know about them. Number 1, would you mind communicating what we know about the bugs so far? I'm going to check on Talk.
I don't remember from last session.
That wasn't me throwing the ball at you because I forgot. Not at all.
They are. Do you remember Talk?
I got it.
It's that interface.
They seem to be an invasive species, potentially one picked up by the galactic rift at the edge of the known space. Could be picked up. They seem to be out of phase here on the disk, but you say you see them just fine?
Yeah, something, it seems from our initial scans that something with the transport either brought them into phase with our space or what. We're not really sure. It's going to take further scans.
It's like lining up 2 waveforms. We managed to get them in the same wavelength.
Exactly, sir.
If it's possible, see if we can replicate it. It's
Very
potential that we could transport them somewhere else. But we need to know what they feed on. Would you say this is correct, Captain?
I agree. I also think we should see if we can find some weakness, frankly. Unless they display signs of intelligence, this is an invasive species, not unlike the Denobulan wasp, and we may need to eliminate it in order to keep this place afloat.
Well, sir, I can tell you that the universal translators in the lab are definitely beginning to translate again. It's unclear, but they're definitely processing some kind of language from these creatures.
Some primitive language like pheromones on ants, or something more advanced?
It certainly seems more advanced.
Damn. All right, well, if they're sentient, it means maybe we can reason with them.
Perhaps.
I'm going to take a look around. Can you remind us what our immediate surroundings are? We're not yet to the dead center, right?
No, you guys had stopped just outside. There's an energy field that's protecting the core of the forest. This energy field is actually where you first saw the creatures as they passed through the barrier. They would become visible on the inner side of the barrier closer to the core, but they would disappear again shortly after passing out of it.
Talk. Search your memories. What is this shield? How long's it been active? Has it been receding from the outskirts? Is it recent?
Let me see if I can focus, Captain.
We're going to call this presence and no, this is going to be insight and command.
Insight and command. Gotcha. Okay. Affirmative. Did that work?
Yeah, it went through. I mean, you didn't succeed, but actually, as you begin to focus, you get a bit of a tingling sensation where the sprout is on the back of your neck, but nothing comes. You try and you try, but you can't seem to recall anything.
Can't sort out all the stimulus.
It's all right, Talk. I'm sorry I asked.
You would say for sure that it's resisting you.
I want to say it's specifically resisting. It doesn't seem to want the question.
Interesting. All right. Number one, Insensorala. Let's think through our options here. We know that there are potentially two different consciousness at play. There was the dreamer, and there was the one that was seemed to be in pain. I'm sorry, the what?
Never mind.
There was one that was desperately in need of help, and then the dreamer. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, there was one. Sorry, let me find the exact phrasing for you. It was one that was desperate and in pain. Yes, there were two senses that the counselor picked up, and one was dreaming in some sort of hibernation, and the other was sick and desperate.
Let's think outside the box, people. Avalon is reporting that those insects might have a more advanced form of speech. Could they be some sort of hive consciousness, and they're the ones that are in pain, and that this force field has retreated, eliminating their biome that they need to survive in? And in fact, that this hive consciousness is, like any biological life form, fearful for their own death.
Captain, I definitely picked up in the memories that there were two here, two of the same beings here. Not saying that's incorrect. Perhaps it's not an invasive species at all.
Two humanoids, right?
Sort of.
Vague, I
Close
understand.
enough representation.
Number one, do we notice any atmospheric differences inside the shield and outside the shield? Clearly there's something, some phasing effect going on here, but is there anything else? Any traces, minerals, gases, anything different inside and outside of the shield? Would the two of you look into that for me?
I remember there being a strong smell of ozone, sir, but I'll walk off and take out my tricorder.
If you're going to make the quick scan, it's going to be reason and science.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yeah,
Ensign
I think
Sarala assist her?
Yes. Roll 1 reason science die, Ensign Sarala.
Did you say reason and what now?
Science, please.
Science. Okay.
1 die. With Ensign Sarala's help, Commander Nora, you actually start scanning right near the field, and you pick up a lot of inside the field. There's a large concentration of negative ions, so much so that your tricorder fries and burns out. But Ensign Sorales manages to pick up that as well, confirming your reading. It is not, despite what happened to your tricorder, dangerous to a humanoid. But yeah, the area inside the field is flooded with negative ions.
Sir? Inside the field,
Nice.
it's flooded with negative ions. It's actually fried my tricorder. Sir, I think hers is okay, but mine's gone, sir. But it's safe
I
for
have
you, it's not
confirmation of the readings on my tricorder.
Interesting. Commander, would you report that back to Avalon? It could help out in the lab.
NORAD Avalon.
Go ahead, Commander.
We've I lost my train of thought. I do apologize. Avalon, we have found a very high concentration of negative ions inside of the protective shield inside the dome.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest passing that on to our science team, taking a look at the samples.
Very well, we'll do that. Avalon out.
All right. I propose we continue heading towards the center. I'd like to think our answers wait for us there.
And Captain, before you even step off to head towards the center of the forest, you hear the chirp of your communicator.
All right. Logan here.
Captain, with that information, we found not long after the creatures were in the containment field, they began to disappear again. But upon subjecting them to negative ions, they reappeared. It
Interesting.
appears it even slows down their physiology.
I see.
From our initial research, it appears that in their natural state, these creatures are in some sort of hyper acceleration, and they're invisible to those who exist in a normal time frame.
Hyper acceleration, would that mean that they could have evolved here? Right out of the
Possibly.
small pests in the soil and evolved into what they are?
From our initial readings, the genetic markers don't appear to be the same. They don't seem to have come from the same place.
If I remember correctly from the logs of the Enterprise, the galactic barrier would have a heavy amount of ionization. If they evolved to live in something of heavy ionization, it might have been the only way they could survive within the barrier, but there's still almost no data to support that beyond log entries of Captain Kirk.
So, are you saying prior to crossing the galactic barrier, they could have existed as normal insects, as part of a healthy ecosystem, and perhaps crossing through that barrier and either exiting a high concentration of negative ions or even passing through them, they somehow took on these characteristics of being hyper accelerated and perhaps have been wreaking havoc on the ecosystem?
Could be that, or they could have picked them up from the galactic barrier. What if they evolved? What if there's some small planetoid, something with enough gravity to have something evolve in that high ionization? They could have come from the galactic barrier themselves.
Talk, I think I remember you mentioning outsiders. Could this have been an invasive species introduced by visitors, even unwittingly?
Could be, Captain, or it could consider them to be the outsiders themselves. We saw a lot of that fraying, decay, and almost looked like burns that they would have picked up from the galactic barrier. Could have punched enough of a hole for these things to get inside, or potentially, you're right, it could have been microbes on somebody's boot.
Has the Enterprise had any success with the Universal Translator?
The ship has not had any success thus far, that they've reported at least. So you wanted to continue toward... I forget. Did you guys ever attempt to recover a sample of the sap that existed from these trees?
I don't think we did.
I was just curious. No, for no particular reason.
I thought one of us shoved our arms down one of the holes and got sap on themselves.
I think you were planning on that, and then the hole was smaller than you were hoping.
How much sap is inside of me right now?
You could find out. There very well may be sap inside you.
Sean is a sad sap. Do we still see sap pouring from the trees here, or was it only when we were outside of the
it only
shield?
seems to be coming from where you see direct holes in the tree, or like, you might see an occasional area where a piece of bark has been stripped off and you see the slow drip of sap, like any sap you would see from a terrestrial tree.
Gotcha. Well, if one of you guys wants to have that sudden inspiration of noticing it, given that the DM himself has spoken to us, feel free.
I think with Nora's amateur botany interest, she'll probably go over and take a sample, but
Yeah.
where my tricorder's dead, I'm going to walk over to Sarala and just put it on my hand and get her to scan it.
You are, Commander.
Careful, Commander.
Just scoop up some of this sap, and it's...
Captain, it's already inside talk. I'm going to take the risk of having it on my hand.
That's fair.
Are we positive that it's inside me?
We're not positive. It's interesting, actually, when it makes contact with your skin. It has a slight kind of numbing sensation. Very slight. It's not like a immediate effect. Almost even like it kind of relaxes the muscles.
Captain, this is having an effect. I'm losing slight feeling in my hand and just doesn't feel.
Like an analgesic?
Yeah, very, very close to it, sir. Can't quite describe it.
We should send a sample back to Avalon.
Yeah, we certainly can. Do we have small, like, packs with us? Anything like that? Like, I know from shows every once in a while you'll see somebody wearing, like, a little...
Like the... Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you guys could definitely easily have something like that on hand. You could put the sample of this like in like a petri dish or some other tiny containment device.
Right. I'm going to take a clean sample from my bag, what's on my hand, and put it there. And buggering my mind's blanking. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. Take that.
We are in the middle of a weird geodesic dome. It's understandable.
And hand it to Saral and say, please take care of this. And I'll go back to probably looking at the bore holes and stuff like that. Giving them a much better look than I had before.
Chief, what did that feel like when we took the sap from you?
You didn't take the sap from the chief.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Never mind.
That came from a tree.
But isn't he a tree right now?
No. He is the interface.
I've been penetrated in the neck by a tree needle that has like a blossom on it, and I'm now the user interface.
I imagined that much differently. Okay. I
We're not getting
Groot
talk sap.
He's not Groot yet.
Okay. Gotcha.
Be careful with that, Sarala. And Sarala, I know you like to eat strange things. Let's not try that here.
Never, sir.
All right, let's send the
Take
sample
me
back to
first.
Avalon. See what we can find out about it.
Okay. Right now, it's easiest to transfer just the data from it, which you can easily just do with the tricorder right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Which you don't need to make a roll for this. It's pretty straightforward that it's in the sample container. So yeah, you don't need to.
Okay.
All right, we will now continue our trek towards the center. So we've sent the data. I think we'd probably tell them to like see if they could replicate it and see how the bugs react to it.
Okay. All right. So you guys are continue heading towards the center. You approach the field, the energy field, as I described before, and
Wait. Is it a different energy field?
no, the same one from before.
Can
The
you
one that's flooded with negative ions.
We're in that, right?
No, you were still outside of it.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
And you're okay. As you approach it, Tak, you suddenly lose control of yourself. You can't see or hear anything. You may pass safely through the barrier.
That's what, did I say that?
Yes.
You may pass safely through the barrier.
And
I do think Logan might have a slight problem with that. Just be like, talk, are you in there?
Tak, you come back.
Still here, Captain. Riding a bit of passenger seat, to use old Earth lingo.
All right. Are you uncomfortable at all? We can end this.
I'm completely uncomfortable, but I don't think it's worth ending it, Captain.
All right, fair enough. So, proceed.
All right. As you guys pass through the field, you get a little bit of a tingling as you pass through, but everything else is fine. Once you get inside, you see, as you could tell from the outside, that everything inside of this field is completely untouched. There's no boreholes. All the forest seems to be healthy and it's in a perfect state. You kind of wind down, not really a path, but just kind of a break in the trees for a little while. And as you approach the center, you begin to see what looks like ruins.
Stone?
Yes, stone. There's a crumbling ruin that is shrouded in dense foliage and is almost completely covered by the forest canopy. It's a massive tangle of roots and vines that envelops this network of stone blocks and whatnot. The trees twist themselves and entwine into the cracks, then they grow around the structure.
Incredible. A stone building within this place. Who would have built this? The last vestiges of a civilization? Why would this be here?
Sir, when I was in the academy, I remember reading a few things about Earth's mythological history. Could this be an Adam and Eve situation, sir?
Really good thinking, Commander. It may well be. Very strange. How big is the ruin, Easy?
It's. I mean, it's pretty big. It stretches out maybe 100 meters in each direction.
Okay.
There is a kind of. It's not. There's a bit of an archway that looks like it might lead into deeper in.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it's capped. It's not like there's a pyramid here or something, but this looks, if anything, it's probably some sort of perimeter wall.
Oh, way bigger than I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah, it is bigger. Does anyone recognize this architecture? Does it share any common roots with any other alien architectures we're familiar with?
Can I make a roll for that?
Yeah.
Please.
This would be reason. And
May I assist? May I assist her? The Jorans are one of the oldest spacefaring races.
totally.
Seen. I don't want to mainly do it, but maybe if I can help the ensign narrow it down.
Yeah, and this is going to be reason and science. So I don't know what else it would be. And your focus would definitely apply here.
Awesome. You get. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
That's shown as well.
Yep.
One more die, please. Just roll that again.
Same thing again?
Yep. Okay. With one success, this doesn't. I mean, it does share some of we're talking the most basic principles of structural engineering, but in terms of motifs or themes, it doesn't connect to anything within your galaxy. There's not even any pictograms or anything. It's just a kind of a barren stone wall.
Well, it's not familiar to me, unfortunately, but it does look similar in design to some old Earth civilizations. Those arches are pretty technological for the time.
Load bearing. So not primitive.
That's right.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen and trees, I propose we proceed in.
Just a quick note. We are the first people to set foot here in eons. If you want to take a moment.
All right. I think that's a long enough moment. Thank you, Talk. I'll pull out my little... You know how even though they're 300 years in the future, they have terrible flashlights in Star Trek? I'll pull out my little crappy hand flashlight that barely illuminates anything.
Yeah, as you approach the entrance to this this arch, everyone looks at you kind of weird with your flashlight because it's only 20 feet to the other side.
Oh. You said it was like 100 million?
Walls.
100 million, 100 meters. Just
100 meters
it's just a wall.
right.
But it's all knotty and stuff with trees, right?
Yeah,
hey,
it's dark.
If I don't need my flashlight, then I won't use my flashlight, all right?
Listen, you can see it's a good thing you actually did pull out your flashlight because you almost tripped on a root.
Oh, there you go.
Because of your flashlight.
I'll point that out to everyone. Roots here.
You make it through this passage, and it leads into a central courtyard of this structure. And Starla, make me one more reason and science roll.
2 dice.
2 dice.
Sierra. That's on the task roll. You just change that to 2. Leave complication range 1.
Oh, I had it reversed. Okay, here we go.
Ooh, a crit.
So it actually strikes you as you enter this courtyard that this is kind of laid out similar to other temple structures you've seen. It has a clear purpose, just kind of in the way it's designed. There's kind of a central altar or kind of dais opposite of the entrance. And it's huge inside this space. There's actually within it becomes much less plain, and there's a series of columns that line the inside that kind of leave this kind of like this overhang where there's a space to walk within the wall. But it's some sort of temple structure from what you can tell.
Oh, Captain, this is amazing. Look how tall the ceilings used to be here. There would have been great acoustics. This was for a ritual or ceremonial of some port. Something like that. Look at this dais. Wow.
Religious?
Could have been.
And at
Good.
the center, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, good eye, Ensign.
At the center of this courtyard, there's an enormous tree growing. It's probably over 100 meters tall. It's taller than all the other trees that you've seen in the forest. Its trunk, just quickly taking a measure of it, it's probably close to 12 meters in diameter.
Wow. It's a pretty big trunk. Does it look like a different species of the other trees?
No, it's definitely a similar family. But as you see it, as you get closer, on the trunk, you can see a humanoid face and the fingers of one hand curled and grasping at nothing.
Sticking outwards?
Outwards. And dark, wavy lines in the bark that splay out like hair.
So, to get a visual, is this like Han and carbonite stuck in the tree kind of thing?
Yeah,
or is
totally.
it like carved? Okay.
Awesome.
Do I feel the need to walk forward
Yes.
like this?
I mean,
Hand
you definitely
outstretched.
want to get closer to it.
Wait! Sorella, what do you think? We still have one working tricorder. Give this a scan, please. I'll kind of block Talk from going forward.
Yeah, I've got my arm on him.
Yeah.
Commander Nara still has my tricorder. Thank you.
What scan were you making? Sorry.
Scanning the tree, I guess, for life signs or...
Yeah, just make me a reason and science roll.
It wants communion, Captain.
Well, Talk, to be quite honest. We'll give it communion when we feel a little more comfortable with what that means.
Srala, from your scan, the DNA, you get a quick DNA analysis of this, and this is in fact a single tree that is approximately 10,000 years old. But it's a giant tree, with a humanoid face on it.
I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
Well, back on Earth, some of the old growth forests are actually colonies of one organism.
Like aspen
This-
trees.
Yeah, this could be something similar, only it's sentient. And this is its... this is how it's exhibiting itself, so it can commune with other species.
I think you're probably spot on. Commander, should we let Talk interface? We've come this far. We've trusted it thus far.
Yes, sir.
Does the humanoid carved or frozen in it look panicked, or does it look comfortable? Like, is it like, or like...
It's just kind of, it doesn't look panicked. It's kind of comfortable. It's a neutral look.
expressionless?
Yeah, eyes closed. Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. I'm gonna lead Talk up to it and just kind of hold him in place in case he falls.
As you begin approaching it, you're probably, maybe 2 or 3 meters from it. The eyes of the face open and blink. The music of the forest changes, and the interface's head begins to tilt from side to side, stops. And the all of you hear this now. No, I'm sorry. The interface head begins to tilt from side to side as if listening to the music of this forest. And the tree, the interface actually begins to speak for the tree. You have come to the center of my forest. It's become.
You
it's
beckoned
clear-
us. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's clear that you are not the ones responsible for our destruction. We would ask your help in ridding us of these destroyers who seek to kill us.
Are you referring to the insects?
And am I speaking? Like,
Yes.
my physical body? Okay, got it. I'm just making sure.
Yeah. But it's clearly coming for you as the interface. This is coming directly from this central tree. Before, it just kind of felt like a chorus. Now you feel like you're hearing a single voice directly connecting with you.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. You are not the ones responsible for our murder, but we ask your help in ridding us of them.
And we will help you as we can. But first we have to seek to understand. What is your mission and where are you from? I'm Captain Logan. I'm from a planet called Earth. And this is my bridge crew. I trust them very much, and you can too.
Make me a presence and command roll, please,
Can do.
in an attempt to persuade this tree to trust you.
And does my formality focus come into play here as an introduction?
Yes, certainly.
Ooh.
Not necessarily for this role, but I gave it access to all of my memories. So I don't know if that makes it any more deferential to the crew.
We'll definitely say that that's definitely helping the role.
Okay.
The interface has shown me much of your people. I believe you can be trusted. We come from a world called Shahana. We've come a long way to make it this far. However, we, referring to us as in the forest, we're not the first to evolve on our planet. Our planet was once home to a humanoid species that was very much like one that once existed on your world. Well, on some of your worlds. I've seen it in the interface's memories. These humanoids, one day, all died out, and the forest was left to grow and surround the world. They left behind only ruins, and at some level we began to distrust non-botanical life forms. But thousands of years later, 2 astronauts crash landed on our planet at the moment when we were just beginning to evolve to the sentient state we are. One of these astronauts was killed in the crash. You've passed where this astronaut lies. This is referring to the burial mound you all passed earlier in the forest. We thank you for not disturbing his resting place, or their resting place. The surviving astronaut was injured as well, and sat down to rest at the foot of a young tree that, unbeknownst to him, was awakened to self-awareness. As the being leaned against me, they accepted that they would soon die from their injuries. And the tree, myself, almost a child at that point, almost like as your children would put toys that don't belong in their mouth, I sent a chute into the base of the astronaut's neck and connected directly with his consciousness. And the two beings, the thoughts and minds, became one. And thus I was born, the first tree. Over the next thousands of years, this led to we began to evolve and develop our own way of communicating. You hear it in the music around you. But we also learned of this astronaut, his memories of home, and that his people worshipped trees as the source of all life. We began to trust some non-botanical life forms. And where this astronaut is from, they even believe that sentient trees created their world. But long ago, the sun in our world began to die. And using some of the knowledge that was brought to us by this traveler, we grew the ship that you see around us. And we left our world, and we now seek our promised land, the homeland of these astronauts.
Where is that promised land, if I may ask?
We're trying to get there now. It's not far. We've come so very far. We do not know the name of it. We just know we are close.
We will help you as we can. First, we have to understand. We have people aboard our ship who are learning about those insects, the invaders. We think they might be sentient, much like yourselves, and if that's true, then I believe we can perhaps reason with them. And if they're not, and they're merely an invasive species, then we can seek a way to either destroy them or remove them from this place. I ask that you give us a little bit of time. We will help you.
We shall deliberate. Tak, you feel like you just got slapped across the face and woke up suddenly as you feel yourself coming back. You still heard everything that was said, and some of the things that you've now seen begin to make sense. You remember, almost as if it was your own memory, the crash. You remember your co-pilot dying on this far-flung world. That with the focus this brought you, you know that these trees are 160,000 light years from home. They're from a nearby galaxy. They're not even from this galaxy. That explains the damage from the galactic barrier. Whoever these ancient astronauts were, they were incredibly advanced to make it as far as they did.
You okay, Talk?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I still want to have maybe the emotional transference tier.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I remember everything now, Captain.
The story's true.
In the communion with the interface, I also now communed with the memories of those astronauts. The pain of one of them dying, the fear, the ultimate acceptance, and coming together. Captain, this dome is 160,000 light years from its origin.
Certainly passed through the galactic barrier. Commander, Ensign, Chief, what are our options here? We need to find out where they're heading.
Do you recognize the race at all, Talk?
Of the astronauts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question, Commander. Let me think about it.
They were nearby, so we can. This
Sorry, go
planet
ahead.
may not be existent at the moment, or inhabitable at the moment, but at least get an idea of where they are heading. If we know the
And in almost classic Star Trek fashion, The astronauts just look like a normal human.
With like
There's-
one, do they have one or two facial features different?
No, in fact, they just look like humans. But you're from what you remember of your homeworld, not your homeworld, of the astronauts' homeworld. It definitely was not Earth. I mean, there were multiple. It was a binary star system. You had more than one moon. It was not Earth by any means.
Captain, if I didn't know better, I would say that they were from Earth, no other distinguishable features. However, it's most certainly not Earth. The civilization that had this technology was incredibly advanced. I would say maybe even what we were only 20 years ago to reach it that far, and in some ways, even more advanced.
Thanks, Damari. Any other parameters about the home planet that you can recall?
I remember it was a binary star system, multiple moons. That should help narrow it down within here. However, it's been an incredible amount of time difference. The moons might not exist. The planet must be close. I know they can sense it. I can feel that they can sense it.
All right, let me try something. Logan to Avalon.
You're muted.
Go ahead, sir.
Everything all right with comms?
Just minor fluctuation. Must be that ion field.
I need you to run something by astrocartography.
Stellar cartography.
Stellar cartography. Couldn't remember the name. Of course. You know the system I'm talking about.
But yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Extrapolate the course of this geodesic dome and where it's heading. We're looking for a planet, multiple moons perhaps, a system. Was it binary, you said, Chief? Binary star
Captain.
system? Extrapolate where we're heading.
Very well, sir. This will only take a moment. And they run some quick calculations, and they determine that the system is.
What's Genesis?
While they're deliberating, we need to think about our options, people.
Yes, you do.
If we need to eliminate these bugs, I want to be positive that they aren't a sentient being.
If they have a language, Captain, that more than goes over Starfleet's definition of sentient.
I agree. I'm well aware. Commander?
We need to find their origins, sir. If we can return them to it, if possible, if not relocation.
I tend to agree.
And I get that I'm suspicious. Can someone say the word? Suspicious? Thank you.
Suspicious.
Suspicious.
Suspicious by nature, but I'm not 100% sure on their story, sir.
I understand,
There's-
Commander.
There's an incredible amount of fear and desperation and rage. Can't tease out the rational bits. It's sitting around it like a cancer, where the rest of this is in harmony. Those feelings are muddying, and they're restricting my access.
Talk, how long has this been going on that they've been invading here?
GM?
I mean, you're not even clear. You do know, with some of the clarification that was brought to you, that these creatures had not invaded until after they had passed through the galactic barrier into our galaxy.
Hmm.
You
And
know that
it was not as a result of passing through the barrier. It happened shortly after arriving in our galaxy.
honestly, actually, they didn't come They weren't from the barrier. They only arrived here after they entered our galaxy, which would mean that those creatures are indigenous to our own galaxy.
What's between here and the barriers, sir?
A great deal.
I mean, yeah, there's probably
that's
hundreds.
right, yeah. I take back that question thinking about it now.
Um,
I was thinking
Still.
we're not.
Still, they should be similar to other species we've cataloged. That should give us an edge, at least an understanding. Hopefully we can find out their origin.
and you actually, Avalon comes back and says, "Sir,
Go ahead.
we're keeping pace, but we're not sure how this happened. There was no readings or energy spikes or anything, but the plant ship has gone to warp.
How's that possible?
It's not warp in our sense, but it's traveling at warp speeds. It's only going warp 2, but it's moving. We're maintaining pace."
Understood. Any word from stellar cartography?
Yes, they've located the planet that we believe they're heading towards. It's an out of the way planet. It's called Albali Prime. All we have on it is a planetary survey report that's almost 10 years old.
Uninhabited?
It has native inhabitants, similar to early Bronze Age, perhaps.
Then what happened? Civilization destroyed itself? Started fresh?
And sir, we're picking up what it makes no sense. There's some sort of beacon emanating from the planet.
Explain. What sort of beacon? Is it directed?
It's not directed, it just seems to be some sort of signal at what? It just stopped. Tak, you feel that the forest knows exactly where it's going now. And it is on Abali Prime. And Tak, you lose yourself again for a moment. The voice of the first tree comes back, and you hear it. I have told my children that you are not the cause of our sorrows. Indeed, you may yet be our cause for celebration. If your deeds are equal to your lofty promises, our long and difficult journey is near an end. We have located I've located the island promised us in the Great Cycle. We have found our new home at last. Soon we will bury our roots deep into new soil, but our time grows short and the distance remains vast. We ask your aid in completing our journey and removing these invaders from our forest before we make it to our promised land.
Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead,
How
sir.
long do we have until this ship arrives at that planet?
17 hours.
Not gonna last 17 days, man. People,
Taki
we have
comes back.
17 hours. We can't land on that planet and prepare for their arrival if that civilization is Bronze Age equivalent. That would be violating the Prime Directive.
Captain, that ionization, I think they're slipping through subspace. That's probably part of the differential. If they can ionize enough, it would be functioning as warp. That beacon was a call, and the call was answered. They know where they're going exactly. And mind you, there's two minds here. One that desires for a new home, and the other that wants to return home.
Do we have any idea who made them this promise?
We did, essentially, when we offered aid. Otherwise, I think they did what anything did. They left one place to go home.
Part of it, you remember, talk seems to be picked up from the mythology of that ancient civilization that existed, that ancient advanced civilization that existed on that world once. There is basically a great cycle on their world where eventually, they think that humans will die off and the plants will retake the planet, and it's just kind of a cycle that goes on in their world. And these trees seem to have latched on to part of that mythology.
Ensign, it's much like the religions you study. Captain, I don't know that let me put it this way. It's like this tree was told a bedtime story. A bedtime story that said there's an endless cycle of humanoids coming, and then trees, and then humanoids. And in that, it believes that it is essentially thinking it's the next phase, almost a messiah. It essentially...
Commander, I'm concerned. This phase sounds suspiciously like a life-death cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people living on that planet right now. Logan to Avalon. You're muted.
Go ahead, sir.
Avalon, I need you to do a deep sensor scan and see if there are any signs of weapons aboard this platform.
Sir, there aren't. I mean, from everything we know about this ship, from what we've been scanning, there are no weapons. I'm sure. Well, actually, I'm not quite sure if we wanted to stop it, how we would stop it, since there's nothing that we seem to understand on how it's propulsed.
Extrapolate from, what was the planet's name?
Bali Prime.
Run a simulation. If this ship were to crash into Albali Prime.
Okay. It would essentially be out of character. It would essentially be what you would expect. Yep, we hear you. It would essentially be what you would expect if a 10-kilometer wide asteroid hit a planet.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bad. But from also what you've seen with this ship, it wouldn't be uncalled for if it was able to actually land propulsively.
All right, we need options, people. I need to speak to the first tree, Chief. Do you think you can achieve that?
Yes, Captain. Just again, even though it's grown, I don't know that it understands that what it's doing might mean death. But yes, entering in, Captain.
First tree, we know your destination. We saw the signal. They're beckoning you home, aren't they?
Yes. We will return home. What is that noise? Is that coming from me? Oh. We will return home. It is our reason.
You were informed of this place from the astronauts?
Yes, as we became one, we also seek it as our home.
This vessel, how are you going to move to that planet? How are you going to establish yourself there and drive your roots into the ground?
When we arrive at our home, we will set down and allow the roots to grow from our ship and reintegrate with our homeworld.
Thank you. All right, we're going to see what we can do about those insects, okay?
Please. For if you don't, we will have to take care of them ourselves.
All right.
Is it possible for me to kind of do a little walkabout? I'm looking for the dreamer, another interface. I want a second opinion.
Yeah, you can look around. You see a couple gardeners, but the first tree seems to be the only one really capable of directly communicating.
Is there another log coffin like the one that the chief got into?
Oh, you mean one of the pods?
Yeah.
There definitely are some around here.
Would I have any indication if they would be the same tree talking?
I mean, as far as you can tell, the way that the chief is interfaced, it's not that he's tied to a specific tree. It's just that he can directly pick up how these trees communicate through whatever they did when they interfaced with him.
It's like he has an antenna, and there's broadcasting radio.
Essentially, yeah. Like he didn't interface with a particular tree, but he's definitely picking up the signal, so to speak.
Okay, so maybe rather than the pods, I want to be looking for. I'd like to try to find the other entity somehow. Maybe it's deeper in the.
Well, one was in the burial mound, presumably, right? And one is in the tree? Or
Yeah,
do we
the
get
other-
the sense there's another consciousness? Are those
No, it's just the dreamer and
the one who was scared?
yeah.
So I think, I don't know if we're in character, out of character, but I guess I'll just switch it to in character. All right. So the dreamer, the barrow, right, the burial mound, and the one that was fearful, the consciousness of our tree, which we know is somewhat childlike. It's attached to this fairy tale, this mythology. I think that accounts for our two different personalities. Would you agree, Ensign?
That sounds correct.
All right. We need to
I'm
find.
wondering if there's a way we can connect with the other consciousness.
I'm not sure the other is that. I think even this one, the two consciousnesses are one and the same, somewhat. The humanoid that was absorbed is partially the dreamer, and the tree is the one that's fearful. But they are inextricable at this point. They are either in the true sense, one, the other, and both. Is that a fair assessment, GM?
I would say you feel from your stem that is not what the connection is here. The force you feel coming from that tree is a single voice. There's no separate entity from it at all. There's a single voice. If you focus on the idea of the helpless and sick one, your thoughts almost start to turn angry.
Okay. I mean, scratch that. Good thinking, Ensign. I was wrong. The
dreamer is the speaker.
The dreamer is the speaker. There's no two more consciousness. There's only a single one. It assumed memories. The other that is sick and desperate.
We still have the possibility that it could be some sort of hive mind for those insects. They could be sick and desperate because they've been exposed to those ions, or the lack thereof.
I would like to lose a little bit of control then for the crew. I'm like, they have to be destroyed, Captain. I'm like, this other consciousness, it's a disease. It's just a disease. It's a complete extermination that we need. Immediately.
Thank you, Chief. We'll take that under advisement.
There's nothing worth saving, Captain. There's nothing worth saving in them. There's nothing redeemable.
We understand, Chief. Commander, We need an update. We need to find out what Avalon's found out about these insects. We've got 16 and a half hours until this ship lands on a planet currently inhabited by people who have no idea what space trees are. It's going to blow their minds. And we won't be able to intercede at all once we reach that 16 and a half hour limit because we will uphold our Starfleet duty. However, if we can't stop this ship, I will have to let it play out, I suppose.
Understood, sir. And before I call back to Avalon, I'm just kind of giving the captain a look, and my eyes are just going between him and Talk, just like on the idea of, do you want me to take care of him? Just
yeah. I'll sort of give the like kind of nod, like we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I'll take a knee and.
Norad, Avalon,
Go ahead, Commander.
what's your progress on the insects?
So, from what we've learned, it's quite interesting. Unfortunately, the four we beamed aboard, they have died. They seem to be suffering from some sort of neurodegenerative disease. We didn't realize it until it was too late. It appears that, but what killed them was not the disease itself, but in fact, these insects have somehow become addicted to the sap. The sap itself seems to be some sort of opioid that helps them and relieves pain. They we never got any communication with them, but it seems to can't think of the word, inhibit the symptoms of the disease that they're suffering from. There's no clear cause from what we can tell, but we'll definitely begin looking into if we can potentially come up with some sort of cure, one for their clear addiction to this sap, and two, hopefully, to the neurodegenerative disease. The ship's doctor is currently studying what we have and looking towards finding a treatment in some way to administer it.
Have you found anything about the origin of these insects? Do they resemble anything that we've already recorded in the archives?
From what we can tell, there are known to be some. The only thing we have is secondhand records that we've picked up, actually from the Klingon Empire. And being that they're from the Klingon Empire, they focus more on the potential threat to the Empire than anything particularly useful in this case. But on some asteroids and other rogue planetoids, they have found insect-like creatures capable of surviving in a vacuum, essentially. These seem to be very similar, if not perhaps some sort of branch off of their evolution. They call them the Jahanzu. But yes, they seem to float in space typically, and they don't even really eat organic, botanical things like this. It seems to be that whatever they're doing is out of desperation, and they may not even know what they're doing if it's affecting them as a drug.
Is it possible the one in pain is the hive mind for those bugs? Do we have any information on them from the?
From what we can tell, they do have a complex communication system, but the Klingons really don't go into depth to it, and they don't have anything useful. There's several pages here on how best to kill them. It seems to be pretty easily, actually.
Sir, with the information that the Avalon's provided, do you think we would be able to establish communication here on the planet, on the ship?
I think we're going to have to. Crew, this is how I propose we proceed. I'd love for you to tell me any blind spots, any gaps in my logic. These insects, I believe they're sentient enough that we can communicate with them. They're clearly in pain. They didn't mean to come here, but they're causing a great deal of havoc. So we've got 16 hours for that ship, one of the best equipped science vessels in all of Starfleet, to figure out a way to get those insects off of this and put them somewhere safely where they can indulge themselves or we can break their habit for them. Simultaneously, we've got to make way for these trees to land. They're coming home, like it or not, and we cannot be a part of that. We can't show ourselves to those people on the planet, and likely this is going to change the course of that civilization from here on out, and we can't be there to see it.
But, sir, they're not coming home. They're non-indigenous to our galaxy, and we're going to permit them to land.
They are invaders, sir.
I don't think we can quite classify them as invaders right now. They're clearly not a hostile force coming to take over. What was that, Easy?
I said, how does Talk feel? I mean, how does the interface feel about this discussion?
Talk is sitting with his hands down. But the interface, like, we are going home. Like, this was destined. This was dreamed of, and now the dream is about to awaken.
There's nothing inherently wrong with their migration. They're landing on a planet. They're certainly not coming with hostile intent. There's no weapons aboard this ship, and best we can tell, their consciousness is not going to be harmful. They don't have anywhere else to go. We could find them another suitable planet, but that would be a long, arduous process, and we've got 16 hours for them to land.
I'm going to keep blurting out anytime Talk's trying to think of a peaceable, logical solution to getting rid of them. He's saying the opposite. So he's trying to access, or we have 16 hours with a clear-cut way of how to destroy them before two things end up on a planet.
Talk, I would say if you want to attempt to resist the influence of the interface, you could make a presence, and we're actually going to say security.
I like it.
And if you want to spend it, I'm going to call this difficulty 3. If you want to spend any momentum, you can. You've only got 2, but you can spend 1.
Wait. So, and what was the role? Presence and what?
Security.
And
This is
security.
you attempting to fortify your mind against this invasion.
I have. You tell me.
Okay.
I'm stretching here. I have in my values that faith is the suspension of reason.
I would say this totally goes with your value because this is totally the interface is playing off what they see as some sort of religious belief.
Right.
And if you want to instill your value here, absolutely go for it.
Sweet. And
So you can spend a point of determination, which you can use to give you an automatic crit. Or that's probably the best thing in this case.
I will do that,
And that's a pre-rolled crit, so you still have 2 dice to roll.
okay. So I rolled that, and I got my pre-crit.
Unfortunately, though, you're focusing on it, and you even feel that you're thinking of some of the lessons that people tried to teach to you back in the
Prophets. That's not lost on him.
Exactly. You're thinking of the prophets and how it doesn't make any sense, but it's just forced down by this idea of the cycle and how it must be completed.
Is Talk still armed?
I assume he is.
All right, I'm gonna more pat his shoulder and say, "How are you feeling, Talk?" And while he's hopefully distracted by either pain or talking to me, I'm taking his phaser.
Nice.
Okay.
You tell me if I react on that, GM. I'm good either way.
Let's find out. You don't react. Well, you as Talk are actually you as Talk understand why she's taking your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
The
Fine,
interface
driver.
doesn't. The interface doesn't seem to really understand.
Damari, we need to speak with the first tree again.
I will gulp and
Far traveler. We've learned that there are people, not unlike the astronauts, on the planet, on the island where you're heading. What is your intention with them? Will you live harmoniously besides those who you could teach, who you could peaceably coexist with, or are you there to wipe clean, start from seeds?
We intend to grow and live. This world is our promised land. It's where we are meant to go. And we will get there, or the forest and I will die. We will get there, or we will die trying to get there. I will expend all of my life's energy to ensure that some of us survive.
I understand that. And what when you get there, and there are people there, there are other entities there, who know nothing of your arrival?
Yes. There are not many of us left in this forest. But we do not intend to harm those on that world. This astronaut, one of them, woke us to consciousness. We know of this world. We know his people there are of his people.
The world is much different now. That was a very long time ago, and things change quickly. As seeds grow to great trees, and so too do leaves fall. Planets change, civilizations prosper and fade. You'll find it a very different place than you're expecting.
We must return. It is foretold.
Thank you. We'll speak again later.
Oh. I must say, if you will not aid us by helping us arrive, you will aid us in other ways.
Is that a threat, First Tree?
The music in the forest is definitely a bit more. It's more ominous, for sure.
Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead, sir.
Load all torpedo tubes. You search the interface's memories and you know the destructive power of the Mark III Federation torpedo. We're here to help you, but if you push me again, so help me God, we'll leave you as glittering space dust. I don't care how long you've traveled. Don't do it again.
There's no response.
When you say that, does anything happen to the chief? Does he look okay?
Tak, you definitely feel kind of an anger boiling up inside you.
towards my crewmates and captain.
Go ahead and make another presence and security roll.
I mean, can we just pluck the needle right out?
Yeah, I was wondering that. Can we?
When I have plucked the rose.
You could certainly try. Chief, yeah, you're getting really annoyed with, especially with what the captain just said. That's like it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. It's up to you how you want to act on that.
Well, I serve the narrative, GM. I guess I'll look at all of them suspiciously. What the hell's the matter with all of you? Loading torpedoes? This is the last of a species.
Are we sure of that, Chief?
I'm quite sure.
What's left on their homeworld?
Nothing. Nothing is left on their
What did
homeworld.
you see?
Oh, God.
Gone. It was dying.
As a reminder, their homeworld sun did die.
Mm-hmm.
The sun went supernova. There isn't a thing in that galaxy.
Chief, we understand what's at stake, and we understand what these people, trees, have suffered. We're here to help, but I don't take threats kindly. So we continue to work together, or we can end this right now.
Kevin, all of you have also noticed the number of gardeners has begun to increase around you. There's not like this tight circle around you, but if you look back to where the entrance was, there's several of them, probably at this point, 15 standing in that entranceway. They haven't entered the central courtyard, but they're just kind of looming there in the distance.
Yeah, I'll kind of look back at him. Like, we're trying to help you. Give us some time. Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead, sir.
I need xenolinguistics working with all hands on deck. It's extremely important that we decipher those insects' language right now. You have the most advanced lab the Federation has to offer. I need this work done 10 minutes ago, people.
Sir, the Universal Translator is actually picking them up now.
Ensign, I'm going to replicate you a cake when I get back to the ship.
Thank you, sir.
Transmit the patch to our comm badges, please.
We will. Incoming. And second passes, and your communicators, your badges all kind of chirp as if they've received new information. And you don't hear anything new because inside this dome there are no insects. If you head back out, you may be able to communicate with them.
We need to head out. I suspect we will hear a garbled mess if they're all on opioids and in pain, but we need to try to communicate as best we can.
Where's the heart of the infestation, sir?
All around us, outside of this central force field.
Yes, but even if we knew where it started.
I take your point. Good question. I'm not sure we can determine that. Our sensors couldn't pick them up until they entered the force field and the ionization. Perhaps we could have Avalon reroute some of the ion exhaust. We could pipe it in.
Entirely possible, sir. We could also look for the first signs, the oldest damage.
That's a great idea. We could recalibrate the sensors to take in the ionization. And at that point, I mean, we could just arm phasers right to it if we found it.
Oh, before we go that far, Chief, I do have some bait with me. I hold up the sample of the sap.
Yep.
I'm sure we can lead some to us.
Good thinking,
and sir,
Ensign.
Captain, I'm also thinking, do you think the ship could find out more about the nature of the beacon? Maybe if the source of... If these people are going toward that beacon, if the beacon isn't emitting anymore.
Good thinking, Sarala. We failed to account for the beacon. Something there wants these people to arrive. We don't know what.
Is it possible they still have the ship somewhere on this, the original astronaut ship?
May
the
well.
Beacon is called the original.
All good theories. Commander, why don't you contact Avalon? Let's get walking to the perimeter. I'm kind of going to grab Damari by the arm, like maybe a little rougher than he should, but still just kind of like pulling him in the direction.
Uh-huh.
We'll start heading towards the barrier.
As you start heading there, you get near the entrance, and from Damari, the first tree speaks again. Travelers, where are you going?
We're trying to help you. We're trying to deal with this infestation.
Very well. The gardeners that were blocking the path part.
Under my breath, I'm like, that's fucking right. Sorry. Star Trek, sorry. Shouldn't have swore. I'll
darn
edit that
right.
out later. Bleep! I take it back.
We'll say, since it is a bit of a walk back out there, during your walk, you learn that the beacon coming from Albali Prime transmits intermittently, and its signal is definitely getting weaker, as if whatever has left powering it is definitely losing power. But you do know where exactly on this world that beacon is at.
On Albali Prime?
Yes, where it's
Or
emitting
Albali
from.
4?
Prime.
Sir, could we replicate that signal and send it somewhere else to a possibly uninhabited planet?
That's good
Or a dead
thinking.
planet?
That's good thinking, Commander.
I'm not sure it has the intelligence, true intelligence, to know the difference.
I wouldn't be so sure. Feeling the narcotics.
Some other things you pick up from now that they've focused in and they've done a long-range scan of that area, and they've also taken the time to look at the old records from the planetary survey from 10 years ago. The valley where the signal is emanating from, it's a sparsely inhabited area of about 1,000 square kilometers. In that area, there's roughly 1,000 people living there. And actually on this planet, there are no trees. There are only bushes and kind of bamboo-like plants. The entire valley is barren of trees.
I think the captain's kind of scratching his head as we're walking.
And that is despite, based on the planetary survey, that from what they can tell, the area has fertile soil, ample water from rivers and streams, small lakes. The inhabitants of this world do plenty of agriculture, but there are no trees growing there.
Are they removed?
Tuck, at this mention of no trees, you almost... It makes total sense to you. Of course there's no trees. Why else would we be returning?
I'll be like, it makes perfect sense. No trees. This was foretold. It's a lock and a key, and they're supposed to be turned.
It's also possible that they're not viable.
Ensign, how can you think that? How does that even go through your head right now? No trees on a planet with fertile soil and a traveling tree spaceship that is going to commune with it.
I don't disagree in principle.
Yeah.
All right.
How could we? I'm gonna look it up.
I feel like we all just need to line up and smack him.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, like, I think Nora's just keeping the eyes between her and Captain.
Nora's got her phaser unstunned and like hand on her phaser.
I think Talk is, while walking, far lighter than he typically is. I'm just going to go for the opioids. I'm just... look at these flowers, though. Have you ever seen, on any planet we've been on, something as beautiful as this? The harmony of it. The perfect balance of all things.
Chief.
Please stay away from the flowers.
All right. We've got options. Ensign, that was good thinking. We could theoretically find a similar home. Another planet with similar biospheres, and we could redirect them. On the other hand, Commander, Ensign, what if we let it play out? What if we help them, we rid the infestation in some amiable way, and we let them land. They were called there. Maybe the cycle is real. They certainly believe it.
If memory serves, Captain, the
Chief?
prime directive.
Chief, I'm going to
prime
order the
directive
commander.
would say that we can't. It would say that we can't. It's written first and foremost. That's a non-warp capable civilization. This is a natural phenomenon.
Captain,
Yes, Commander.
if we walk away, the bugs will take care of everything.
We won't do that,
If-
Commander. They are a sentient civilization that has asked for our help. But I'll definitely keep that in
And
mind.
so are the bugs.
Of
Should
course.
we interfere with that? Are we not violating the Prime Directive by interfering with this at all?
I don't believe so. Not now that we're here. And they aren't surprised by our warp capacities. I think we're well within our rights here to try to help both of these peoples out.
At least one of them. We got that option.
Both of them, Chief. Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead, sir.
I need you to replicate as much of that sap as you possibly can. We might need it.
Sir, working with the chief medical officer, whose name I forgot, but I know they have a name. We've actually managed to synthesize something that we believe will remove the addiction from the Jahan Zoo.
Nice working, Avalon. We're gonna need a distribution mechanism. These bugs are everywhere and they're difficult to find.
We're working on that. In theory, we could beam them off the dome, but we'd need to be able to see them.
We're going to need to flood the dome with negative ions, I believe, in order to do that. That seems to bring them back in line, slow them down at the very least.
The secondary deflector dish could definitely do that without a doubt. It's like we were supposed to be here, Captain. It's part of the prophecy, I think.
Perhaps you're right, Chief. We can do that without harming them, right? Is there a suitable moon nearby that we could deposit them on where they could live their merry bug lives out? They can survive in vacuum, correct?
Correct.
We can put
There are plenty of nearby places we can leave them.
We could put a buoy with information, let anyone know that they're there.
As you guys actually are getting closer to the outside of the energy field, you begin to hear so much noise. Like, it just sounds like a crowd of people begging for help. And like these broken kind of voices. They interestingly are not, it doesn't seem to be speaking as a hive mind per se, but you can hear them now. And they want help. They're desperately need it.
GM.
Yes, sir.
Hearing, 1,000 different voices pleading for help. I'm a Starfleet officer. I would like to try to resist this.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and we're gonna say hearing all those voices is definitely gonna make this easier for you. Yeah, gonna use any momentum?
Yeah, hell yeah.
We have so much threat. Do it.
All right.
So one
roll.
or two?
We have 2 momentum, so he can spend 1 to add an extra die.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm rolling 3. 2 successes.
Chief, you're thinking, and you don't, for the first time in a few hours, you don't feel that passenger that's been riding along. But you do feel like a pressure coming from where that sprout is, pushing against you. But at the moment, you are resisting the connection.
All right. I'll be like, I'm going to do the, Star Trek's one of overacting a bit. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be like,
You all right,
Captain,
Chief?
resisting the passenger. Haven't exactly been here. I've been in the vehicle, but not driving.
We know, Chief.
These things need our help, Captain.
We need you, Chief. My theory is if we can flood this dome with negative ion particles, we can slow them down. We can then safely beam each and every single one of them to a container, some sort of containment field we can set up on the ship. The docs come up with a cure for their addiction, then we can safely deposit them on some stellar body nearby here. I need you to help me execute on that, Chief.
The ensign had the right idea. I mean, really, you have exactly what they want. There's no reason you can't take sap from most of these trees, put them in a few containers. They will flood there. I'm almost sure of it. You just got to get enough of the sap.
I believe we can replicate the sap. We sent the biosignature over to the ship.
Talk to engineering.
Go ahead, sir. Ramirez here.
Ensign, I need you to realign the secondary deflector dish. And in fact, we need the primary one as well. Primary one should have a quick expulsion of a Dechion beam. And then I want you to essentially ping pong that off the secondary deflector dish and bathe the dome in negative ions.
Okay. So I'm going to have you make a command, an engineering and command assist roll, while Ensign Ramirez will make the roll to focus that Dechion beam and reflect it off the secondary deflector dish.
And I'm making, what was it, control and...
Oh, I'm sorry, I said command and engineering. It's going to be, we're going to call this presence and engineering, because you're kind of maintaining your engineering knowledge while fighting through that the force. Oh, Ramirez, you beautiful. Let me do a quick ship roll, unless you can get that for me, Talk.
Oh, I got you.
Can you give me ship roll of? It's going to be.
I got engines, computers, weapons, structure, sensors, communication.
It's going to be structure, and engineering.
Okay. Just one die?
Yep.
Got it.
All right. You guys generate, because Ramirez had a heck of a roll. He got 2 crits.
Nice.
You guys generate 3 momentum off that. And here Ramirez, it's like, sir, it's coming together. You should have that in about 3, 2, 1. And you can see it's been difficult to see, but in this moment, you actually catch the Avalon up, keeping pace. Cool. And you see this beam, this kind of orangish glowing beam emit from the secondary deflector on the front of the saucer section, and it kind of envelops the entirety of the ship, the geodesic dome. And as it hits, you see all over these creatures in varying states. Some of them seem to be relatively lucid and walking around. Some of them are kind of look incredibly lethargic and are potentially even in varying states of death and dying. But there's, at least within your immediate vision, there's hundreds. But based on their size, you assume if you can convince the tree and any space cats to lower the shields on the dome, because there is some sort of shielding. It's not like your shields, which completely block out transporters. if you can convince them to lower the transporter, their shields, the tree ship's shields, you can begin beaming them all out. You can put every transporter pad and the cargo transporters to work, and you can begin moving them into into a containment space somewhere on the ship.
Ramirez, quick.
It's officer material, Captain.
I agree. What's the plan, Chief?
We'll have to get the tree to lower its biological shielding.
I have an idea for that.
Go ahead, Ensign. Well,
I'm hoping the tricorder collected enough information about the music that we heard because we now understand that it's a language. Maybe we can use the music to influence the tree.
I like that idea, Ensign. We can do it without interfacing directly with the first tree, who our relationship has taken a complicated turn.
Exactly.
Could definitely attempt that.
Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead, sir.
Avalon, we've sent hours of data now regarding this music that the trees use to communicate. We need to convey an idea, and we need to broadcast it. We need this vessel to lower its biological shielding so that we can begin transporting these space bugs.
Captain,
Do you think you can do that for me? Chief, go ahead.
Everything here has a particular resonance. Imagine every dot of pollen in a garden has a particular signature. We've already sent the data from that sap, which very clearly is an absolute opioid. Might make it more heavier to suggestion if you can put out that exact key, which should be in the spectrum somewhere. I can't think anymore, Captain. My mind.
Good thinking, Chief. Avalon, did you copy?
Yes.
Is that yes, sir, Ensign?
Yes, sir. Sir, this may actually be easier for you guys to complete within the dome, as I don't know how we're going to generate pheromones from the Avalon, sir.
Fair enough.
Sure.
I out of character. I forgot it was pheromones too. I thought it was just, but we're hearing the music as a result of the pheromones, aren't we? I forgot
Correct.
about that. Sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
Sir, if we're gonna remove the bugs from this dome, telling the first tree that, I can see no issue with them lowering their shielding.
You're right, Commander. I just was hesitant to submit Damari to it now that he seems to have himself back.
That's his choice, sir.
Damari, are you all right to go back?
Captain, the first duty is to Starfleet. I will go back in.
I'll put a hand on his shoulder, kind of squeeze it reassuringly.
I will reconnect.
All right. You kind of just release that resistance and you feel that pressure that was in the back of your neck come back, and you've reconnected.
Traveler. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to address it. Traveler. Yep. We've come to a solution. We can rid this infestation.
Then rid us of them.
I need you to do something for me first. I need you to lower the biological shielding, only for a few moments. Listen, trust goes both ways. When my chief decided to crawl into that pod, we had no idea that was how you communicated. We trusted that whatever sentience you possessed would be kind and be collaborative.
We will agree.
Thank you. Logan Avalon, prepare to transport these bugs. Fill up the cargo holds. Get every single one of them.
Will do, sir. And you see actually the shade of the dome change as the shields kind of retract from the top, receding down to the edges, almost looking like sort of a flower blooming.
Cool.
Once that goes down, the Avalon, you begin to see little flashes of transporter all around you. It's going to take a little bit of time, but you definitely think that they're going to be in the cargo bay soon.
Awesome. Commander, once we're free of these bugs, I propose we all get back on the ship. We speed over to planet
Albani Prime.
God, Albani Prime. We don some clothes of the locals and see if we can't prepare for the arrival of the trees.
Captain,
Agreed.
Go ahead, Chief.
with the beacon, if you could get to the beacon itself, it's running out of power. You might be able to direct it into the valley where it's not inhabited. I'd say I could go down and help you, but I don't know if the connection will last.
I understand, and I thought about asking to release you, Damari, so we can prep for arrival. But I agree. They said that the beacon was in a populated area. We should at least try to move it somewhere not populated.
Yes, Kat, I was wondering if we could replicate it.
Replicate?
it and place it in a far more remote location
Yes.
instead of actually having to interfere with the planet itself.
I agree, and I think that should be our next task. Ensign, I think we might be breaking a few speed limits because we need all the time we're gonna be able to muster.
The Wave Rider shuttle could get there before us.
Logan to Avalon, how much time do you need to transport these bugs?
We're gonna need at least an hour, sir.
I think we can afford the hour. We should be able to make it there at warp 8 in a few minutes. Let's take the whole ship. We might need equipment on board. I'd like to speak with the Traveler one more time, Damari, and then I think we might be able to release your connection.
Affirmative, Captain.
First tree. As you see, we've upheld our promises. We're removing the bugs now. We'd like to travel to the island to prep for your arrival. And to that end, I'd like you to release my chief, close the interface. You can trust us that when you arrive, well, the island will be ready.
He is not ours to release. He became one with the trees. You don't sense any,
Malice in that, or...
no. He willingly gave himself.
And now he can willingly release?
Wait, plus what?
I mean, you have...
How
you have no
nasty
idea.
is that thing connected? Does it look like it's connected to nerve tissue and stuff? Or I mean,
you can't really tell just from looking. Yeah. I mean, Damari, the way it feels, it's not just like this is just like sitting on your skin.
Right.
It goes into your body. In fact, I think I actually remember you had the strange sensation of feeling something wrapping around your brainstem.
All right. Well, I'll probably have enough to come back. Captain, if my assumptions and deductions are correct, based on all things taken together, I believe the needle and the vine that pushed inside are wrapped around my lower brainstem.
What do you think about proximity? If we take you back to the ship, is this, are you going to be harmed?
Unclear, Captain. Could stop working. It could stay.
Well, I can't have my chief of engineering be a plant forever. Let's beam back to the ship. We'll have a medical team waiting.
Affirmative, Captain. I will prepare myself for the unknown.
Commander, Ensign? Anything else we need to take care of while we're here?
Not while we're here, sir.
I can't think of anything, sir.
He'll kind of stop and look at the three of them and just be like, damn fine job here. Logan to Avalon.
Go ahead, sir.
4 to beam out. Energize.
And the flash of the transporter spools up, and it's left there an image of the forest with flashes of the bugs beaming off, and the 4 of you return to the Avalon, unsure of what will happen next. And that is where we'll end for today.
Dope.
That was a good one. That was super fun. I loved it. Hope
No,
you
I was
guys
gonna
had fun.
have to talk with the captain.
I like
For
that the
last
chief.
Tempest is biting my tongue.
Can I stun him, please?
Every time you said, "Can I take care of them?" I was like, "Is she saying let's just take him out, throw him out the airlock?"
New wet
I
word.
also just meant like knock him out. He would have been hitting him in the head versus stunning him. It's like,
So
I
good.
know. I'm proud of the chief. He found faith and
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
had any faith in for so long.
I don't know that the chief necessarily found Faith.
I mean, it looked
But
like him.
Faith found him.
If it walks like a duck.
That was so good. Yeah, that was
They
great. I loved
certainly
it.
did find him.
All right, real quick, before I launch a raid, let's do one of my favorite traditions and go around and ask everyone their favorite moments. Can I start with you, Easy? What was your favorite moment tonight?
My favorite moment is honestly my favorite moment has just been what's happening with this game in general, which is me trying to put as many pieces in front of you and watching how you guys react to it and the things you come up with.
Yeah.
I feel like that there's just something about it in this game that's I don't get it from any other game.
Yeah. It's because there's so many things you can do with, like, Trek Babble science and stuff. There's just, I guess there's like endless possibilities, right?
To a degree, yeah.
All right. How about you, Kayla?
seeing the first tree. And
That
the
was
whole thing
cool.
about that. I really like that.
Yeah. I really liked the explanation of the two like astronauts. That was so cool. How about you, Sierra?
Yeah, the big tree. That was my favorite part too.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more of the ruins, maybe.
Yeah, I could like see the scene in Star Trek where you're like standing there and there's the big like matte painting behind of the ruins, and the big tree on some sound stage. I could just see it in my head. How about you, Sean? Favorite moment?
I guess trying to fight it. Trying to think about where the first tree begins and ends with Tok's personality.
That was cool. You were killing it
Trying
with
to
that.
keep it slightly reined in. I really liked when the commander took my phaser.
Yeah,
Like
that was good.
that was maybe my favorite. Of hey, yeah, Tok. What?
Yeah. Hey, how are things going? Swipe. I love everyone's characters, man. I love the ensign's like interest in archaeology, and the commander just doing the side eye. I was geeking. Like every time he would talk, I could just see Caleb being like, "I'm gonna stun this dude." So good. All right, hey, thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna go kick off a raid right now, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. I know our schedule got like kind of screwy. Are we back the 28th? I think so.
I won't be here.
You were
yeah.
you were off for that. We'll either forge ahead or wait. I could also probably do the next Friday or the 5th. I think actually the 5th will be tough because that's like the 4th of July weekend. So
Yeah, I'll be good.
we'll take it offline and figure it out. Maybe we'll
I'll
just
be
do. Go ahead.
Nothing. I was just
All right. Maybe the commander will stay with the ship on the 28th. We'll figure it out. But anyways, thanks everybody. We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.